The fated day has arrived. The ultimate gauntlet between the final four survivors in North America is about to go down. They've all done just enough to survive up until this point, but only two can keep their dreams alive. Florida, Toronto, Washington, Boston. Who's going to Anaheim? Here's my preview and general expectations of how the Western play-ins go. To quickly explain how the play-ins work, it's a double elimination, 2-day event. Day 1 decides who advances to the winners finals. On day 2, the upper bracket teams play, with the winner automatically going to Anaheim. The loser, on the other hand, will await the winner of the other two teams in the losers bracket, and from there, whoever takes that final game will claim the final play-in spot. Simple enough, right? Alright, cool. So let's discuss the big games, and first up is Boston versus Florida, and this one maybe has some upset potential. Boston may be the lowest seed in this tournament, but they have been pretty tough in this new meta. And let's not forget that they have already beaten the Florida Mayhem this stage, so that makes them even more scary. On the bright side for the Mayhem, they've looked a lot better since taking that L. They've gotten hot towards the end of the stage in typical Florida fashion, as they always manage to do. They struggle at first, but then really finish strong. Late stage Florida is simply built different. They have a strong tendency to show up in tournament settings like this one, which could spell trouble for a Boston team that we've never actually seen make it this far before. Do we value the experience factor more than Boston's 4-2 stage and previous victory over Florida though? That's the real question. In my eyes, the answer is absolutely yes. Florida have proven to be very clutch for one, but also this meta has slightly shifted more in their favor. Part of what made Boston a threat early on was that double flex support combo plus the Sombra. But in recent weeks, Lucio and Sombra have been getting way less use. I feel like Boston's DPS just have more responsibility on their hands now, and in general, Boston's DPS are up and down, so putting this game in their hands could end up spelling their end. They just need to have a solid day. There is no other way to win this, because Hydron and Checkmate, they're totally back in their comfort zone. Florida are dealing with way less confusion, and because of that, you're gonna expect them to have an easier time dealing with Boston's DPS as well as Punk. They're going to put a lot more pressure on that front line, which is going to open up room for someone to take over this game on the Zarya. That's kind of underrated if I'm being honest with you. Now, with that said, anything's possible here in the play-ins. I think that Boston had the 10 seed locked up for quite some time, and because of that, they maybe haven't been focusing as hard on their matches as of late. Who knows what tricks they have in store for us? They're a dangerous group with very little expectations on their shoulders. If Florida don't take them seriously, then an upset is a huge possibility. However, Florida just play way better when we reach tournament territory, as they're a completely different group, and their DPS are probably going to make the bigger plays here, so Florida take it in a 3-1 in my honest opinion. The Mayhem have yet to be a disappointment in this exact kind of situation, and until they let us down, it's just not worth suddenly not believing in them. Okay, so Mayhem make it through, but what about the Justice versus Defiant? Well, this one I think it could be a lot more interesting. Neither team has really blown us away here in the Countdown Cup, so the real question becomes, what do Washington have up their sleeves? They've had a rest week, so we really don't know exactly how they'll look in the most current iteration of the meta. On paper, they should match up with Toronto. They've got their Zarya, a Genji, and a promising Sojourn. But where the concerns really lie with the Justice, as usual, is at support. It's fair to say that Krillin and Opener have played above expectations this year, but the challenge ahead of them is rather difficult, and that's why it's worth maybe having some concerns. Being pit up against Twilight and Shorong is no joke, but on the other hand, the Justice with Decay on their roster have been known to make late season playoff pushes. The BS just hits different this time of year, and I could totally see them clutching it out yet again. Toronto are also very beatable though. They're hella inconsistent, just like Washington as it currently stands, and they're a different team every single time they take the stage. It's a total coin flip as far as I'm concerned, and on this fateful day, I believe the coin will land in Canada's corner in a 5-map victory. The X factor here is going to be Toronto's backline for sure. They're a lot more consistent overall, but maybe getting the bad choices out of their system 1 week prior is going to help too. They experimented and failed in that Florida series, so perhaps they have a better idea of what they're doing now. So that covers the official day 1 matches. It's boring, but I think the higher seeds have a good chance to advance to the upper bracket. Now obviously, from here on out there really are no official matches for us to cover, and it's all hypotheticals, so to save some time, we're just going to show who I think makes it to the playoffs, and then I'll explain my thought process. Ready? 3, 2, 1, reveal. Yeah, I'm going with Florida, and of all teams, Washington as the other one. I know, I literally just said that Toronto are maybe slightly better than the Justice. Why on earth would I have them losing in a rematch? Well, it's the coin flip factor. The Justice BS always seems to work in mysterious ways, and I wouldn't be surprised if this is the time that it decides to work its magic. As for the Mayhem, I believe they'll make it through the upper bracket to claim that first play-in spot, and that would also push them to, I believe, the 9 seed, correct me if I'm wrong, in the overall playoffs. Regardless of which side of the bracket they make it from, I just have a lot of confidence that Florida will be one of the teams to make it out. They feel like the best team overall in the bracket, as they're a very well-rounded group, and despite being very young, they tend to show a lot of poise in high-pressure environments. They love playing in tournament settings. They have that short-term memory that you're looking for, and I think the meta really suits their playstyle now. So be it through a loser's bracket run or total dominance in the top of the bracket, Florida, in my eyes, are advancing, and I'd be shocked if they screw it up. They're not underdogs or anything, so I got a pretty good feeling about them. If they play Toronto, they likely win in a 3-1. They just beat them really hard last week, and there's not a lot of evidence to suggest that's going to change. As I was saying before, the Defiant are just really inconsistent, and they're not to be trusted against an opponent who tends to clutch up really hard. If Florida end up playing Washington, let's say in the upper bracket, Florida might get pushed a bit harder, as the Justice, again, they're just a really weird team this time of year, and Florida tend to make things really dramatic against teams that they should be beating, so we really could live in a world where this goes the distance, maybe even in reverse sweep fashion. But regardless, Florida are very locked in, and their more well-rounded team would prevail. But what on earth happens with the other spot, you may ask? Well, it's very up for grabs. In the event that day 1 were to go as expected, then Boston and Washington in the first round of losers would get a Week 23 rematch. That matchup went the distance and generally showed that these two are around the same level in the current meta. And who's to say that's not the case here in their rematch? It's a good-looking matchup on paper, and to be honest, it really comes down to Decay for both sides. He's the true win condition. He's the one who makes the biggest impact on the game, and it's not particularly close. If he's gonna do typical Decay things and have the freedom to leave his mark, then the Justice likely win. But if Boston design a really solid game plan to slow him down at least a little bit, then it makes it more likely that it goes in their direction. Boston could be poised to make some noise here. Again, it's all about those Boston DPS. Their success is going to live and die by their ability to make big plays in key moments. Can Seeker outplay Decay in a Sojourn battle? Will Victoria continue to play Genji over Valentine? And do they even stand a chance right now as it currently stands if they don't get to play a lot of Sombra? It's a tough guess, and that ain't good, folks, because we know exactly what we're getting out of the Washington DPS if they were to play a lot of Sojourn and Genji. The Justice are just the safer pick in this scenario, so I have them surviving in a 3-2 victory. Boston are such a sneaky dark horse if they manage to get it together, but historically they tend to not do anything with these kinds of chances, and with this current team, it's a bit tough to see that changing. Even if they were to advance in this first round, I kinda get the feeling they'd still fall short. Be it against Toronto or Florida, they just aren't built for long-term success. I wouldn't be shocked if they pull off something crazy just because they're Boston, but they are crazy underdogs for sure. And from there, again, I just have this feeling that the Justice would win in a rematch versus Toronto and pull off their usual nonsense that we get this time of year. It seems like a very Justice thing to do. Decay and Assassin did it last year, and they can most certainly do it again. Toronto are very beatable. It would be boring to have the two best performing teams make it record-wise, so let's change it up and do something crazy. This time around, it would be the Justice taking down Toronto in stunning fashion. The thought of Decay and Assassin making huge plays in a decisive map 5 sounds very fitting, does it not? It would make for a very magical story to witness for a team that nearly imploded just a couple of months prior. Who's to say the Justice don't learn from their mistakes? They make adjustments on the second day, and maybe come into the contest feeling warmed up after defeating Boston. It's a total coin flip either way, but the Justice genuinely are one of the scariest teams when Decay can pop off and have his way. And considering how hard he has carried the Justice in general, that result seems somewhat likely. This could be a really fun pre-playoff tournament. All of these teams are on a similar level, and none of them are miles ahead of each other from a talent standpoint. So in theory, anything is possible here. All it takes is 2 good days of Overwatch, or maybe 2 days of somebody choking. This is where legends are made. Who wants this the most? May fortune smile upon your team if they're participating in this tournament. Anyway, that does it for my preview and prediction segment on the upcoming Countdown Cup play-ins for the West. Who do you think is going to advance to the playoffs? Are we going to have any surprises? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, I'd appreciate it if you could give it a like and subscribe. And until next time, this is ATP, signing out. Peace.